All right, so I wanted to give a quick update on our daily driver, which is the 2019 Fiat 500. I'm gonna start this story about a year ago. This is when all of the drama started to happen. We had scheduled a quick day trip away from our RV, just in the Fiat, to Atlanta, Georgia, to check out the Stranger Things experience and the Walking Dead filming locations. Booked a hotel and everything. We did that a few weeks ahead of time. And it just so happened when that time rolled around, it was the coldest day on record. The day we had the tour scheduled was the coldest day on record for Atlanta. We said, we're going down there anyway. We don't care. We have jackets. So we went down and we stayed in our hotel, had a good evening, got up in the morning, and we received an email. Your tour has been canceled because basically we can't handle cold temperatures because we don't have jackets in Atlanta. We've already spent all this money on the hotel and they gave us our money back on the tickets. So that's cool. We just said, all right, we're just going to go down there and explore ourselves. And the Stranger Things experience is still good to go because that's indoors. We went down to the filming locations, which is about 15, 20 minutes south of Atlanta. And we said, we'll just drive around in the Fiat and we'll explore on our own. And that's what we did. And we found the filming locations and we walked on foot a little bit. We got some pictures. It was really fun. We had a good morning. Even though it was chilly, we were bundled up and everything was fine. So Atlanta, get some jackets. But anyway, we grabbed lunch and then we headed up on I-85 North to the center of Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, to go to the Stranger Things exhibit. Going 65 miles per hour. Again, 8-degree weather. Boom! Fiat just makes a loud noise and then it just starts going ba, 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 ba. And it's just half power. I've got pedal to the metal and we're barely hanging at like 50 miles an hour. And I'm like, okay. This might be some sort of safe mode. I don't know. I think we're in like some sort of protective mode that the computer has done so we don't blow the engine. But I'm like, I don't feel good driving it. But we're like in the hood of Atlanta right now. We need to keep going if we can just go a little further. But I'm like, I don't know. We're going to destroy this engine. And so we're going down the highway and it's 8 degrees. And I'm like, if this engine cuts off, we're not going to have a heat source. We're going to freeze. We're going to literally freeze to death. We're pulling up Google Maps, trying to find where can we go? Where can we go? Traffic everywhere. We're going so slow. People are honking at us like, get out of the way. Why are you going 50? We find an auto zone 5 minutes or something up the road. We just got to make it to that exit. So I'm like, I'm pedal to the metal. We're going. We make it to the auto zone and I cut the car off and I'm like, oh God. All right, the clock's ticking. We're going to freeze to death. So go in. They do a free code run for us to see what kind of code the engine is throwing, and it looks like we have lost compression in a single cylinder. Why? I'm not sure. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is this is the day before Christmas Eve. So we need to get back home, well, where family is. We need to get back to Charlotte, North Carolina before tomorrow because that's Christmas Eve. We got to be home for the holidays. And we know it's getting late in the day. As soon as things close today, we're done. We're not going to have anything. We're not going to have any help until 3 days later. And maybe even further if people were closed all the way through the new year. So I knew we were on a time crunch. We're like Google mapping. All right, what can we do? Like, can I fix this? Can I buy a part in AutoZone and fix it? I'm Googling all the diagnosis things, all the things it could be. I'm like, there's no way. Like, I would just be taking a chance. I have to buy tools. I have to do all this stuff. Is there a mechanic shop that can do something? I'm like, this thing's under warranty. Like, we can't just have a mechanic tear it apart. Like, and we're in this rush. We have like an hour and a half until everything closes. We finally decide in the heat of the moment, let's try to get a rental car, drop this thing off at a dealership. We'll head home in the rental car. We'll enjoy the holidays with family. And then hopefully we can get all this handled after. There's an Enterprise, another 5 minutes up the longest hill in Atlanta. I'm like, I don't want to drive this thing anymore, but we have to get here. So cranks up. I pedaled to the metal at like 30 miles an hour up this hill that takes literally 5 minutes. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. We make it to an Enterprise, pull in and shut it down. I'm like, I'm not cranking this thing up again. We go in to get a rental. The only thing that they have available is an F-250 Super Duty. And I'm like, you don't have anything smaller. You don't have any cars. No, we just have the Super Duty. It's the holidays. I'm like, I understand. I'm like, how much is it? And they're like, it's pretty expensive. And I'm like, I don't know what else to do. So I'm like, this is the only thing they got. We got to go home for the holidays. So we pay a ridiculous amount for a ridiculous amount of truck. Now we have a vehicle secured with heat. So now we're in our single digit temperatures. Now we need to get a tow to the dealership. We got to find a dealership that works on Fiats because not all Stellantis dealerships work on Fiats. We finally find one in Atlanta. They close in about an hour. They're 30 minutes up the road. We have to get a tow truck to our location. Call the tow company. They're like, yeah, we can pull it off. It's already dark too because it's winter. So we're in the dark at this point, waiting on a tow truck. Flatbed finally shows up. He is at the last minute possible to get to this dealership across downtown. If there is a wreck, if there is any kind of slowdown, we're not going to make it. It's just, we're on the edge of our seats this whole time. And it's so cold, like it hurts. He can't load it on the flatbed because it's a manual and he's having a hard time. And it's so cold, he can't think. A lot of people can't think in this temperature. And I get in there and I drive it up the ramp because that's what I do in the RV all the time. And I know little tricks to keep it going up a steep ramp. And we get it up there. Fiat's on the flatbed, finally. Now let's go as fast as we can to the dealership before they close. Because if they close and the gates are shut, what are we gonna do with this Fiat? We're gonna leave it on the side of the road? We also looked into parking, paid parking. We did a lot of research. There was no paid parking open. There was no paid parking spots available. We race across the city. We make it to the dealership with literally 5 minutes to spare. Service place is closed, but the dealership sales staff are still there and they let us in and we fill out some paperwork, drop it off, leave it. All right, we're good. We got the Fiat secured on the dealership property and we're headed home for Christmas in a big old Super Duty. Yeah, so we just came for a day trip, spent a bunch of money, did nothing that we had paid for, and then headed back now in a big Super Duty that was burning gallons and gallons of gas on our way back to our family for the holidays. And we left our beloved Fiat in the hopefully caring hands of Atlanta. That didn't work out. We get home, we enjoy the holidays. All right, cool. I call in the little space between Christmas being over and New Year's still coming. And I'm like, hey, I just want to make some contact. You got the car, right? It's not like missing. They got it. All right, cool. Do you know, do you have an estimate of how long it'll take to figure out what's wrong with it and then fix it? Obviously you don't know what's wrong with it, but do you have any timelines? They're like acting like I'm bothering them. Of course, I mean, it's the holidays. Everybody's got holiday-itis and I understand, but they couldn't really give us anything. I was like, all right, I'm gonna wait till after the new year. We had this Super Duty for like 3 days over the holidays and it's very nice, but it's ridiculous to drive this around and the cost is ridiculous. And we were going to need to be reimbursed from Stellantis or Fiat for the cost of these rentals. We're paying it up front out of pocket ourselves and it was really expensive. So after about 3 days and the holidays were over, we went to an Enterprise location in the Charlotte area and were able to swap out the truck for an economy car that we could drive around, similar to the Fiat without all of the character. So that's what we were in this whole time until the Fiat was repaired. I don't call them back until after the holidays are over. This is early January. I'm like, hey, has anybody had a chance to look at it yet? They haven't pulled it in. They don't know yet. I'm like, okay, I get it, holidays. I'll wait a couple more weeks. Hey, is anything up? Oh, I guess we'll get it pulled in. They still act like I'm bothering them. Again, it's been 3 weeks at this point or something, almost a month. I've only called like 2 or 3 times and they act like I'm bothering them. Okay. And they were like, we're going to have to tear this apart and charge you an hourly labor rate of $150 or something like that to diagnose what's wrong. I'm like, well, it's under warranty. And they're like, yeah, but you could have caused this. And if you caused it, it's going to be on you. So we need you to agree to pay us $150 an hour to figure out what's wrong with it. And if it's on you, then you got to pay us that. And I didn't really have a choice, so I agreed to that. Fingers crossed that it wasn't on us. But because we don't have the Fiat, we don't want to drive the RV a lot because the way our setup is designed, it's a toy hauler and the weight distribution is designed around having a vehicle at the very back of the trailer, which balances out the load. Without the car, the pin weight is way heavier than it should be. It's a lot more weight on the truck. It's a lot more weight on the frame up there at the nose of the RV. It can damage the frame. It can damage the truck. It's just not a safe way to drive with the back empty since it's designed to have 2,500 pounds back there. So we decided we're gonna stay where we're at until we get the Fiat back. We're in a holding pattern and we're just waiting to hear updates. Towards the end of January, I finally get an update that they've discovered there's a hole in the exhaust valve and it's gonna need an entire new head and they'll be able to order the parts and get it done. It'll take like a month or something like that. I'm like, okay, wow, that's fine. It's under warranty, yes. Okay, so after waiting the time that they told me to wait, I called for an update. Oh, we haven't received parts. They sent us some parts, but they left some parts out. We don't know how long it's gonna be. Okay, we have plans to go to our next campsite, which is another 6 hours further away from Atlanta. We shouldn't let this dictate our plans. We can take one trip without the car in the back. That'll be fine. So after waiting as long as we felt was reasonable, we decided to just go ahead and go to our next camp spot. Alicia followed behind me in the rental car while I drove the RV, and it was empty in the back. I didn't like it. I took it easy. I went really slow. I just didn't like all that extra pin weight on the frame of the RV. I think the truck's fine. Truck can handle it, but I'm more worried about the RV's frame. So we drove 6 more hours away from Atlanta, and I am not joking. I'm not exaggerating. The day after we arrive at our new site, they call us and tell us it's ready, it's done, it's been fixed. Wow. Okay. They're like, are you going to be here tomorrow? We're like, maybe the next day. So we drive 10 to 12 hours, I don't remember exactly, back to Atlanta in that rental car, show up to the dealership, crank up the Fiat. Sounds good. I'm like, all right, good, they fixed it. Great. We have a brand new head. This is cool. We drive from the dealership to the original Enterprise to drop off the rental car. And on that drive, I feel like the car is more aggressive in its sound. And I feel like it's a little more like wild. I was kind of excited. I was like, this thing we might have not even had the full potential of this from the beginning. There might have been an issue ever since we bought it. And so I was super excited about that. But then I was like, I don't know. So we drove it 10 hours back to our campsite. Fiat did fine. Great. We're good. Well, no, we're not. We're actually not. It ended up not being fine at all. We're hanging out on the East Coast, South Outer Banks, driving the Fiat all around, exploring. It just doesn't sound right. It's still making little noises, especially at low speeds. We feel like we smell something burning, but it's so slight. We can't find out where it's coming from. I start monitoring the miles per gallon. We usually were able to easily pull in the 30s, mid 30s, 34. If I'm driving aggressively, 31, 30. At this point, I was struggling to get 30 miles per gallon, even babying. If we drove softly around the city, we would pull 28 miles per gallon. And I knew that wasn't right. So after putting about 1,000 miles on the engine and these symptoms not improving, I decided to go ahead and drop it off at the dealer down there. This dealer, so much better than the Atlanta dealer. Like the customer service, top notch, friendly, competent. I'm not bothering them at all. They actually seem thrilled that I'm there. They also let me know that they have one of the rare, fully certified Fiat technicians in the entire country. He's like one of the top guys in the entire country. And I'm like, wow, I wish we would have brought the car to you from the beginning, but we were 10 hours away. But he's like, don't worry about it. We'll figure out what's going on and we'll take care of you and it'll be top notch. And I'm like, cool, sounds good. So I leave the car with them a few days. All right, they call me. What's wrong with it? They're like, where did you get this repaired again? I'm like, it was a dealership in Atlanta. They're like, I don't know who did this, but they didn't replace your gaskets when they put the new head on the engine. It's had old, used, unsealed gasket this whole time. It's completely ruined the engine. It's warped the block. The entire engine is toast, and you're gonna have to have an entire new engine put in. And I'm like, well, that's under warranty, right? They're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, cool. Wow. Okay. This sucks, but at the same time, cool. We're gonna have an entire new engine. We get to start over. That's cool. We're gonna have 0 miles on our engine. I'm like, how long do you think it's gonna take? And they're like, well, they don't make this vehicle anymore, and we're gonna have to order this engine from Italy, and it's gonna have to travel over here on a ship. So it's gonna take about 2.5 months. Oh, okay. Whoa. All right, that's fine. I don't know what other choice we have, and wow, this sucks. Kind of messes up our plans for about 3 months. All right, do you have a rental car? Yes, we have a rental car. Cool. Can I have it? Yeah, we'll get you in it. So they put us in a Jeep Cherokee that's got a lot of miles on it, stinks a little bit. It's missing knobs on the dash. Not the greatest thing, but hey, I mean, it drives and it's good. It's fine. We spend 2.5 months in the same location, not traveling in the RV, just waiting on this Fiat. And a funny thing happened over the course of these weeks and months. We started to realize that we weren't missing the Fiat. Usually when you have a car that you like and it's gone, you get sad. But we weren't sad. We weren't missing it. And we're like, what does that mean? Does that mean that this relationship has run its course? Does that mean that maybe we weren't meant to be together this whole time anyway? I'm being dramatic, but we're like, Maybe we could put something else in the garage. That would be fun, wouldn't it? What could we fit in there? Do we want motorcycles? Nah. If you watch my previous video, you'll understand all the reasons why we chose the Fiat in the first place. I'll put that up here if you want to click on it and watch it later. Watch this one. Finish this one first. A lot of those reasons still apply. We still want to be able to go highway speeds. We still want to be protected from rain and cold. You know, it's a daily driver for us. It's not just a plaything. Although it would be nice to have more of a plaything. I understand the Fiat is a toy, but it's just a road toy. What if we wanted a toy that we could take off-road? That would be nice. So I got to Googling and I got the eBaying and I found something. And it was love at first sight, I believe. And I'm excited to share that with you guys. So stay tuned and we'll get to it. This video is pretty long, so let's go ahead and talk about it in the next video.